What's going on, guys? My name is Mason, and this big brute is Big Red, my 1968 F500. I picked this up probably about 7 months ago. It's a pretty good truck. It does have a flatbed with a dump hoist on it, so that's pretty neat. That's why I bought it. This truck, some cool things about it. Not so common as far as I know. 300 and a 4-speed. For anyone that doesn't know, when I say 300, I'm talking about the Ford inline 6. So it's not a V8, not a diesel, it's a gas. Pretty small one, but it's got a lot of torque. The 4-speed, as far as I know, like I said, not very common. The reason for that is these trucks have insanely tall gears in the rear end to accommodate being able to haul and pull heavier loads. We don't do much pulling with this truck, but does do a fair amount of hauling with it. So that's kind of a trade-off you get. A little worse gas mileage being able to manage, only having 4 gears and that small of an engine. But yeah, it's been a pretty good truck so far. There's been some little things. Kind of jumping in halfway through getting it fixed up. Toying with the idea of making some more YouTube videos. Got my assistants back here making a lot of noise. Yeah. So just to fill you in on what we got going on right now. Last time we hauled in some dirt here at our house, and brakes weren't so good on the truck. I knew that when I bought the truck. The brakes were not very good. These have what they call HydroVac brakes. So it's hydraulic over vacuum over hydraulic. And you know, usually with most power brake vehicles, light duty anyways, they have a vacuum booster and a master cylinder. So when you push on the brake pedal, the vacuum diaphragm assists you in applying extra force, so you're not having to mash on that pedal to really stop it. What this has is it has a master cylinder, and you push on the brake pedal, and that master cylinder applies force to a secondary master cylinder, a HydroVac unit. And when that master sees pressure, the vacuum presses against that and then applies force to the brakes from there. So kind of a different system, not very common nowadays. Finding the actual replacement HydroVac unit, since the one that was in it was faulty, proved to be quite a chore. Took a long time. Wasn't that cheap. Pretty sure I got the last one in North America. So for anyone out there looking for one, I'm sorry, but there's not a lot of how-to stuff on these trucks, so I thought I'd share it, and we'll just kind of show you guys some stuff I'm doing along the way and see what we can learn together and get this truck back up and going, and hopefully get another 60 years of service out of it. All right, so here's where we're at. This is the HydroVac unit. So you get your feed from the main master coming in through here, and it feeds into this port. And like I was saying, when it sees pressure being applied here, the vacuum diaphragm then assists in applying pressure to make it more reliable, a little bit easier to stop, and it diverts that fluid to the front, and then it diverts it to the rear axle as well and applies the brakes from there. So when I bought the truck, all I had was mechanical brakes, and I didn't really have much. What I actually mean in this part is manual brakes, not mechanical. The master cylinder up on the firewall actually had a leak at the back of it, which is very, very common on these old trucks, especially when they've been sitting. There's a seal in the back, and this long piston rides in this housing here. This is a cylinder, and when that seal fails, You basically just blow all the brake fluids straight out the back. Now, that's what was going on when I bought the truck. I replaced the master cylinder, drove it home, and all we would get out of the HydroVac unit was a whole bunch of whistling and a lot of sputtering. And what we had found when it was all said and done, I'll bring you guys over here and show you, is this seal, and this same thing happened to the master cylinder. This seal in here failed, and it was pumping brake fluid directly into this canister, just like the diaphragm you guys saw on the back of the other HydroVac unit. And when it did that, it took out this rubber diaphragm here. You can see it's all deteriorated and shot, and so when it was applying vacuum, it really wasn't doing anything. Before I pulled this out, this was actually seized as well. So I had very limited brakes because all I was getting was what I could force through the passages on this master without the cylinder actually moving and functioning properly. So when that happened, you know, I was getting the brakes locking up on different corners, not being able to apply enough pressure, not being able to stop the truck. So trying to back down a hill and dump a load just was not working very good. So as you can see, I got it mounted up right now. We got most of the lines here. They're ready to go. A smart guy would replace this fitting and probably replace the line as well, but what do I know? I'm not going to replace that. If it works, it works. So what I do need to do, however, is on the old one, it had just a regular double flare fitting on the cylinder to accommodate the line coming in and mounting right here. And this one is a little different, as it takes a banjo bolt. I'm gonna make a new line to go from this union to the fitting on the other side of here. You really shouldn't have a shut-off valve in your brake line. It's a great way for it to fail. And I'm gonna take that out. We're gonna go right to the block on the other side of the frame rail. And once I get that scabbed in, I'll bring you guys back. We'll show you what I was doing, and we'll move on from there. All right, so here's where we're at. This is that union we were talking about, going to the banjo fitting here. And then this is the line I just put together. Now, I'm sure some of you are gonna think, why are you using this copper, nickel, whatever? I'm using it because it's easy. So yes, it's probably not going to hold up forever, but you know, if I can get a few good years out of this line, I'm happy with it. Save a little time now and a little money. So what if I got to fix it down the road? Another thing too, when you guys are replacing brake lines, make them a little long. That helps if you have a routing problem, in case something happens, like let's say a flare fails. This flare is probably one of my best ones I've ever made. I've made hundreds of flares, but I don't think that flare is ever going to fail. Neither is that one in there. But if they were to fail, I just need to trim the line back, reroute it, flare it again, then we're good to go. Or let's say I want to do something funky in here and, you know, tweak the line one way or the other. This stuff is super easy to do that with, and having that extra length makes it so much easier to do. So I'm going to go ahead and get these cinched up, and then we'll jump back in. All right, we are back. So got all the lines hooked up underneath for the HydroVac. It's up under there. So just wanted to go over real quick again how this all works. So there is the main master cylinder. The brake pedal applies force to this, and it pushes that brake fluid out, compresses it, and it goes to that secondary master under there. on the HydroVac. Once it sees pressure, it starts pulling vacuum from the intake, and it routes up under the truck and hooks up under there. And where it hooks up, right here, so it comes through the frame, hooks up and starts applying force through here with vacuum assist. Now this is the breather. This just routes up into the floor, and then it comes out up alongside the gas tank right there. So that's the normal routing. I put a new fuel tank in this when I got it. The tank was full of rust, so it's not 100% mounted up the way it would have been from the factory, but we're not too stressed about that. So we got all the lines hooked up. Everything's there. We got our vacuum routed. Now it's just a matter of getting it bled. I'm going to do this a little differently. I'm going to gravity bleed it. So what gravity bleeding means is just cracking the bleeders open at the wheel cylinders. This truck has drum brakes all the way around. Pretty normal on these older trucks, especially on straight trucks like this one. So I'm just going to crack those bleeders open, starting at the back passenger side for this one from both of the Masters. And I'm going to crack the driver rear and then crack the two front ones. And then we'll let it bleed and we'll go from there. All right, we got the brakes bled. Go ahead and start it up, Dad. Okay, pump the brake. Feel better? Yeah. A little cold. That's ran in about 4 months, I'd say. Yeah, about 4 or 5 months. So we're fired up pretty good though. Get the heater disconnected. Things are a little rotten there. But pretty good. Go ahead. A little cold-blooded. Try reverse. See if you can drive over that chalk. Now try going forward. Brakes working? Do they feel better? Yeah, looks like it's stopping good. Back up a little bit. Okay, stop. Much better. Go ahead and pull it forward. All right, so as you guys can see, Big Red has great brakes now. Just gonna take a second and show you guys around the truck and see what I got here. So when I bought this truck, it had been sitting for about 3 years, give or take a few months. The carburetor, the guy that owned it didn't really know how to work on anything, so the carburetor had been torn apart, messed around with, and it was missing some bits and pieces. I tried to make the best of it and rebuild it. Didn't really pan out, so I did end up buying a reman carb. This is a reman Carter. I'm not even sure what model of Carter, but overall it works pretty good. I did do a lot of work to the ignition system. Just minor stuff. I changed the points and condensers, put a different rotor in there. The cap was in good shape. Plug wires, I left them alone. Coil, I did end up replacing it with a good used coil I had laying around. Fixed a little bit of the wiring under hood here. These 300s, there's a few leaks that they're really susceptible to. Main one is these lifter covers. These covers, the gasket around the outside, and then these seals at each of the bolts, very commonplace for these 300s to leak. So I did end up resealing that just because it was a little leaky. You can see the oil pan is starting to leak after I put some miles on it this year. And the distributor, there's an O-ring at the base of these distributors to keep it from leaking oil out. And that O-ring is kind of shot. So that is something I'm going to have to fix there. I also did a valve cover gasket. Part of the reason for that is I just wanted to see what kind of condition the rockers were in and what kind of condition the valve train was in. And it was actually surprisingly clean compared to just about everything else I've owned. It was in really good shape, which this truck has very low miles on it. I don't remember right now. Another thing is the exhaust manifold was snapped all around this collector here. It was broken in a few different places up underneath and right around the collector. So I did end up ordering a replacement exhaust manifold and changing that out. This is still the original intake manifold, and you can see I kind of just did a spray bomb job on the side of the block there. That's just something I like to do just to make things look nice once in a while. But I did reseal the valve cover and shoot that with some paint, make it look nice as well. The clutch is pretty good in this. It's not great. That's the other thing. The guy I bought this from, he taught himself how to drive stick in this truck, and I think between that and then years of other people just hammering on it, second gear is absolutely toast in this thing. But it's good enough for me, so I'm pretty familiar with these 4-speeds. These have well, this truck in particular has an NP 435. So that's one I have a lot of experience around, and they're really easy to deal with. But yeah, it's overall a really good truck. We put some door hinges on the passenger door. The hinges were snapped off and they were no good anymore, so changed those out. And the door opens okay-ish. That clicking noise is it's caught up on the fender. The fender's not quite lined up right. To be honest, I'm really not going to mess with that, mostly because I don't care enough. I might move it a little bit, but you know, when you get up close, this fender's really not in that great a shape. You know, it's got some rust coming through here, a little rust on top. Maybe I'll find another fender someday, who knows, but not super concerned about it. Another cool thing, these trucks usually have split rims, at least on the back, and they're 20s, and they can be really hard to find the right tires for. Then on the front, a lot of these had these Firestone 22.5s, and I went to a junkyard to get some parts not long after I bought the truck, and happened to find a truck in the yard that had a complete set of these 22.5 Firestones and pretty much brand new tires on the rear and decent tires on the front. So I ended up buying all the wheels and tires off of it and just cleaning them up and repainting them, and I'm really happy about that. That was a big thing for me. Old Badger bed, really nice bed. I mean, it's got some surface rust, but all in all, it's actually in really good condition. Like I said, this truck does have a dump hoist on it, which is the main reason I bought it. Interior is nothing fancy. I got a bunch of parts in there right now, but yeah, just an old seat. The seat's kind of deformed a little bit just from me sitting on it funny. The other thing too is they just have a PTO on the transmission, and you use the clutch to brake that and start it as well. So usually when you see a truck that's set up like that, the edge of the seat is really battered because people lean halfway out sitting on the corner of the seat, and then they're pushing the clutch in and out to engage and disengage. These are your PTO controls. Pulling this out will activate it, and then this is your actual hydraulic control instead of a lever. But yeah, nothing fancy. It's just a speedometer with some gauges, nothing crazy. Just a really simple truck. Some of the stuff I am gonna need to do to it in the future that I'll probably show is I do need to swap out the transmission. I'm in the process of trying to find maybe a 5-speed to put in it. I want to have something that I can still use the existing PTO on. I may end up just putting another NP 435 in it, who knows, but that'll be something I'm going to do at a later date. I am going to need to do the axle seals in that differential hub over there. That hub has got a really bad leak on it. You can almost see from here how bad that's leaking. It's getting up inside the wheels and greasing everything down. So not ideal, but overall it's a minor thing. I just got to keep it lubed up is all. But there's some electrical gremlins. A few people that have never done electrical work have done quite a bit of electrical work on this truck. So I do got to correct some of that. You know, like your cab lights, they're not supposed to come on when you hit the brakes. They're either on or they're off. The marker lights on the fenders, these guys, they are a little funny, so I do got to correct those as well. But headlights, taillights, everything's working there. These trucks actually don't have a reverse light. They had a light on a separate switch, so I actually don't have a lamp on it right now. I am gonna add one back later on. I'm gonna add some more backup lights on the rack above the cab as well, so that I can see into the bed in the dark. But overall, really good. Steering is tight in this truck. It's really good. Hood hinges are nice, so I don't have to worry about the hood banging around so much. There's some spots on the cab are really rusty and other spots are really not. Like the cab corners are actually really good in this truck. Rear cab mounts are perfect. Front cab mounts aren't great. The floor is kind of given out right in here, which is really common for these trucks. You can see the little scraps of license plate in here. Patch the floor up underneath this floor mat with the license plates, and just to kind of seal it up and keep the air down in it. You know, headliner's shot. Oh no, don't really care about that, to be honest. But like I said, did replace the fuel tank. The fuel tank was full of rust when I bought the truck, but I ended up picking up a just gorgeous fuel tank. This tank was in amazing shape. I picked it up for fairly cheap and did a little cleaning on it, and then just plumbed it in, and night and day difference. You'll see the filter under hood is actually a little dirty, but that's just to be expected. It's a little varnishy, nothing insane. I do got to change that filter again. It's getting bad. These fuel pumps also have a filter on them, kind of a pre-filter. Probably getting about due to change this one as well. They're really cheap. They're easy to find. They're at most auto parts stores. But yeah, just keeping up on regular maintenance with this truck and putting some miles on it. The worst thing you can do for a vehicle, any vehicle in general, is let it sit. Best thing to do for them is drive them and take care of them. Do the maintenance when it needs to be done. But anyhow, this guy, it's time to go. See ya. All right, guys. Well, there you have it. Big Red has brakes again. It's running after 4 months or so, and starting up good, driving good. We took it for a little test drive. Brakes are awesome in this thing. I mean, it stops as good as one of my newer pickups. My 78 F-150 doesn't stop near as good as this, and this is carrying a whole lot more weight, but I'm really happy with it. I'm glad that I got that fixed. It is a huge relief for me. I'm not having to worry about not being able to stop the truck when it's under load, not being able to react to other drivers on the road. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Let me know what you thought of the video. Drop a comment if you got questions or you want to see me take a look at something else on the truck. Let me know. Like I said, I am gonna have to dive into that driver's side hub at the back. Probably gonna do bearings and a seal in that. I did have the passenger side hub out, sealed that up, and got it all cleaned out. Got the bearings checked over, they're in good shape. But overall, this truck is ready to go. Can't wait to get back into hauling some rock and dirt with it this summer. And yeah,